Hello and welcome back to Essential Genealogist Tips for helping you build your family tree. In this episode, I am focusing in on my paternal great-grandmother, Eliza Goetz. Often the spelling was different in transcriptions by a numerator, so I often explore with the alternative spelling of Geats. So this is a series of slides that I've put together to demonstrate what I've found about this ancestor and make it easy for someone in my family to read it. First of all, her baptism in 1844. I have an image of the baptism record as shown here, and I was interested to see the ruler on that side showing that it's just over 12 inches tall, so quite a large book. So 12 inches in today's measurements, you can work that out for yourself. I still think in inches. So on the right-hand side, I have a copy of the transcript that I found for that baptism, showing the details. And then some results that I found from chatting with Chat GPT to give me some context for this particular time period. So that was this last sentence here. Eliza was born into a working class family who would have experienced the hardship and struggles of life in Bishop Stratford at the time. Next, we move on to an image of the church, St. Michael's, where she was baptized, and finding out a little bit more about that by doing my research. Moving on to the 1851 census to find Eliza as a young scholar, aged 7, and they were living then at Apton Field. And once again, using Chat GPT to find out a little bit more about that particular street. And it told me that Apton Field was a notorious slum area of West Ham. It was overcrowded and unsanitary. So here is a picture of that area of Bishop Stratford, which is in the county of Hertfordshire. And a little more detail from ChatGPT told me that in 1844, the town was a hub for trade and commerce, with a bustling market and a thriving manufacturing industry. So we move on now to 1868 to get a record of her marriage to Alfred Wright. And you can see over on the right-hand side a copy of the transcript that I had for that particular marriage, and an image that I found that really suited that era and described the church quite well visually. We move on then to 1881 census, when they were then living at 1 Beck Road, West Ham. And her husband, Alfred Wright, was a labourer at the bone factory. So finding out a little bit more about what it was like as a labourer at the bone factory, of course, I went over to ChatGPT to ask that question. Then we move on to 1891 census, 5 Abbey Lane, and a copy of the transcription on the right-hand side. And I went back to ChatGPT to ask what was the difference in living styles from Apton Field to Abbey Lane. And it told me that the family were moving up a little bit. They were in a better area. And so here's a result of that particular conversation I had with ChatGPT to explain where they were living at the time and a little map to show where that was located in Essex, and the fact that Alfred would have had a physically demanding and low-paying job in his role in the boneyard. It says that their house at 5 Abbey Lane would have been a modest one with perhaps 2 or 3 rooms, and it's possible that they shared the house with other families or lodgers in order to make ends meet. And that, in fact, was true, because I found 2 boarders living with them at that address. And then it describes that the place of Abbey Lane as being a significant improvement in terms of living conditions. So quite a lot of detail now to broaden my story, thanks to Chat GPT. Moving now on to 1901, they're still living at 5 Abbey Lane, but now Eliza is a widow. Her husband, Alfred Wright, died in 1923, and she's now living in that same house. This time, the head of the house is Benjamin, one of her sons, and his wife, Mary. And they have 2 boarders living with them. Let me move myself out of the way. So on the right-hand side, you can see at the bottom there that we have William Fullerton, a boarder, and George Howell, a boarder. So that is the end of my slides for the moment, but I'm continuing to research the life of my paternal great-grandmother, Eliza Goetz, or Eliza Wright, as she was known later on. I've yet to find a significant document, such as a death certificate or a record of her death, but I believe she died in 1930. So there are many steps left for me to research. But for the moment, this was a demonstration on what you might do as a simple way to record your process of finding information using downloaded images like this one and copies of transcripts like the one you see on the right, and little bits of context like the sentence at the bottom that you might get from your conversation with Chat GPT. So that is one way to record your research and in the end have a document that you can share easily with other people. So have a go. While you're doing your research and building your family tree, why not double dip and put your research results, images, texts, and other details from your discussions with ChatGPT directly into a PowerPoint file. Have fun with that. I'll be back with more tips later.